Right, so this is 3 days, day 3 of our listening and perception notes. We have talked about how our perception controls everything around us because it's how we perceive the world. We have talked about how the skill tree of our brain levels up as we get new experiences and talk to more people and get more opinions and take in more information. As we level those things up, we increase our schemata, otherwise known as our filing system of things that we know. And like I was just saying before I hit the record button, no math schemata for Mr. Smith, but this one right here is every vine, just for some reason, every vine. Okay, I'm gonna put this away. Those are really nice paper towels. Anyway, we're gonna look at the notes. If I can get them to full screen. There we go. All right. So listening and perception. We've already talked about it for the last 2 days. Today we are going to talk about something that is going to show up on your final exam. So it's going to be a good idea that you remember this, but it's also going to be a good idea to remember this because I have strategies on being a better listener. You just have to have big ears. What? Yeah, big ear. No, I'm kidding. It's an acronym, and we're going to talk about the acronym, but let's get into it. All right, first let's talk about the difference between hearing and listening. So right now you guys are hearing this because it involves the physical process of sound waves traveling into the ear canal, vibrating the eardrum, and eventually sending signals to the brain. Love it. Then that's only step 1 though, because we hear a lot of things, but do we listen to things? Do we actually listen to each other? Maybe, because listening involves the hearing process as a start, but it also involves the psychological process of attending to the stimuli, that means listening to it, creating meaning, and responding. So by actually not just hearing, but you're really like working it into your brain, working it into your schemata, applying it to your scripts, applying it to whatever prototypes you have, all the things that we talked about yesterday, applying it to what's in your brain and actually coming up with a intelligent response, not just being like, oh man, that's crazy, when you didn't actually listen to what they were saying. And then, of course, listening is described as a dynamic and ongoing process where we physically receive a message, employ cognitive processes to attribute meaning to the message, and provide verbal and nonverbal feedback to the source. So, if I may use a visual metaphor, this is antibacterial hand spray from Bed Bath & Beyond? No, Bath & Body Works. It smells good. Pineapple coconut. That's not relevant. But if I'm going to say that hearing is just, your ears like taking things in, let's say that I'm just spraying it on one hand, okay? Now, right now, the spray is localized at the top of my hand. There's not really anywhere else that it can go because I didn't spray anywhere else. So to actively make sure that it's on both hands, I have to combine and rub my hands together and apply cognitive structures, if you will. Cognitive structures just means thinking, by the way. So by thinking, I rub the antibacterial spray all over my hands, and before you know it, I have listened to CDC guidelines. Moving on. Okay, so we know that hearing is just a physical process, but listening is a mental process as well. Hearing is step 1, listening is the rest of the process. But Mr. Smith, what do you mean by big ears? Big ears are large ears. I'm kidding. Big ears is an acronym. It is a strategy that you will use to better hear the person that you're talking to. So, Mr. Smith, what does big ears stand for? Well, I'm glad you asked. Without looking, and I promise I don't have them pulled up somewhere else. Where are my stamps? The big ears stand for be open to the message, interpret the message, give feedback, engage in dual perspective taking or empathize, adapt your listening style, reduce noise, and store the message. So those are things that you are going to do. Those are things that appear on the final exam. So let's talk about each of these acronyms. Be open to the message. Employ effective nonverbal listening behaviors. So we need to be aware of the behaviors we exhibit. Control message overload, manage your preoccupations and other distractions. Mr. Smith, I really need to talk to you. Okay. So I'm really worried about my grade. Yeah? Okay. Mr. Smith, are you listening? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here for you now. I've removed my distractions, and I'm now ready to help you with whatever problem it is that you have. Something about a dragon? I don't even know. What? But either way, be open to the message means that you remove distractions. So you are like, you're not worried about yourself, you're worried about the person that you are communicating with. So being open to the message means that you are going to receive said message. Otherwise, you won't be able to decode it properly. The I stands for interpret the message. This means that you don't just spray. You spray and array. Nope, you rub it. You rub it. So you're actually applying the cognitive structures to understand the message. So You are just taking in what they're saying and you're actually thinking about it. A lot of people paraphrase. If you don't know what a paraphrase means, like if I gave you guys this whole long speech about, for example, Mr. Brahms' Valentine's Day speech, and you paraphrase it as it was very deep. That's a paraphrasing, right? It's not a very good paraphrasing because, like I said, I really want to know what's in the speech because it must have been something incredible. But either way, it is something that we do when we are remembering things. So that's the way that we interpret messages. So by doing that, we are basically taking what is being said to us and we're turning it into a little nugget, something that we can easily access by putting it into our schemata of our brain. The G stands for give feedback. Remember that feedback explains the quality of communication. So if you do not give someone feedback, whether it's verbal, nonverbal, intentional, or non-intentional, it is going to make it very difficult for them to think that you're thinking or that you're listening to them. So if Maya comes into my classroom and she talks to me about something and I just stand there like this and I don't move for 5 minutes and she's just talking, she's not going to know if I'm paying attention or not because I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying, interesting. What? That's crazy. Nah. What? Nah. So even that is better feedback than just nothing, right? So we've gotten through the big, now the ears. The E stands for engage in dual perspective taking. Empathy. Okay, so empathy is really hard to teach, so I'm going to give you an example of what happened to one of my coworkers. So there's a teacher at Clark that I'm really close friends with, and she was, I think she struggled very, very hard with the Black Lives Matter protests at the very beginning of it. But my friend jogs all the time. She runs in her neighborhood, throughout her neighborhood, all that time. Everyone in the neighborhood knows her. Now, this was around the same time that Ahmaud Arbery was murdered by literally a violent mob. It was 3 people, but they still chased him down. They intimidated him. They fought with him, and they ended up shooting him with a shotgun, I believe. And so he was killed by these people, and he was literally just jogging. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't like trying to do anything malicious. But because of that, she realized that there was something that she was doing without even thinking about the repercussions, but someone else that was doing the exact same thing was killed for it. So because of that, she realized that her experience was not the overall experience of the world around her. So because of that, that is empathy. When you're thinking about someone else over just yourself or in addition to yourself. So when you think about it from a different perspective, not just thinking about yourself, you are empathizing. That's a good thing, and that's something that you should be able to learn how to do. So before you're like, how dare they treat me this way? Think, what has happened in their life that is going to make them treat me this way? Or what has happened in their life that is making them communicate the way this is happening? Or if you're listening, see it from their perspective. Why are they upset? The next one is adapt your listening style. You need to be flexible to adjust your communication partner. I mean, that one goes without saying. If I have to talk to Alex, I'm not going to talk to him the same way that I talk to Emiliano, the same way that I would talk to Morgan, the same way that I would talk to Peyton, the same way that I would talk to Alyssa, the same way I would talk to Dasha, the same way I talk to Gabe. I do switch it up based on the students that I'm talking to. So you do need to adapt your listening style based on the person that you are communicating with. R stands for reduce noise. This includes physical, physiological, and psychological. I know that I used emotional noise and mental noise a lot. As long as you guys just understand that there's more than just physical noise, then I think that you have a better understanding of what that means. So, and then the last one is after all this, you're going to store the message. You need to remember what you were listening to in order to make sure that you use that information later. You can do this by forming association between messages and something you already know, creating a visual image of the information you want to remember. So like taking that, paraphrasing it, turning it into a little nugget and keeping it forever. Create a story about what you want to remember to create a link between ideas, create acronyms or rhyme or create rhythm to organize the information. Okay, so the reason why I mentioned at the top of class that I know how to pronounce binaural now is because when I was trying my best in yesterday's Zoom, I was really struggling. Morgan was the only one in the class that was here physically, and so like she was just kind of laughing at my struggle. But it was a word that I was really trying to figure out. Like I can't say it properly, so then I figured it out. But I was able to remember that I was able to figure it out because I saw that Mallory had joined in the chat, and Morgan was also there too. So I was like, oh, now I can mention to Mallory that I really like binaural beats, but I struggled with pronouncing it, and Morgan was there to see me struggle. But either way, that's how you store messages. That's how you store things. That's how you're a better communicator. Whenever it comes down to being a better listener, just remember, you may not have big ears, but you can use big ears. Thanks for watching.